Hey guys, I'm your host Matt, and today we're going to talk about cut down day for the Miami Dolphins on the Matt Newton Football Show. Cut down day is always a difficult day in the NFL. Players across the league are losing their jobs and their hopes of being an NFL player. But in this video, I'm going to discuss the Miami Dolphins and the 5 most surprising cuts as the Dolphins make their way down to the initial 53. Now, the first high-profile cut that was made was to quarterback Mike White. Mike White was informed by the team that they would no longer be needing his services for the 2024 season. And after his release, he was a free agent to sign with any other team. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported Mike White signed with the Buffalo Bills after being released by the Miami Dolphins. The Mike White signing comes before the Dolphins play against the Bills in week 2 of the regular season. But Mike White didn't play particularly well in the preseason, and there was always a feeling that his roster spot was in jeopardy. It seems as though C.J. Beathard was released from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It would make sense to bring someone like him in because he has experience and he also has familiarity with Mike McDaniel. But as far as the backup quarterback is concerned, Skylar White is penciled in as being the number 2 quarterback going into the season. And I'm not really sure if I have a lot of confidence in Skylar, but surely he has shown more in the preseason than Mike White. One of Skylar's biggest problems so far in his young career is the ability to be clutch late in the game. He has a tendency to make some really head-scratching turnovers, which could really cost the team the game. Skylar Thompson was a 7th-round pick, so he doesn't have a great draft pedigree. But what he is he's smart, he's tough, and he loves to compete. And those are not bad qualities to have as a backup quarterback. The second surprise cut shouldn't have been so surprising, but it was Chris Brooks. But it was very difficult to see Chris Brooks getting any playing time when you have Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jaylen Wright, and Jeff Wilson on the roster. And that's not including Alec Ingold, who's also a valuable player in offense. The Dolphins also brought in running back Anthony McFarland, who left an impression on the coaches in the preseason. He's a guy that the Dolphins feel can not only add value in the running game, but also in special teams. I'm not sure if the Dolphins will want to bring Chris Brooks back to the practice squad, and I'm not sure if Chris Brooks would want to come back to such a crowded running back room. So at this point, it seems like it would be the interest of both parties to part ways. The one thing I think the Dolphins are missing out on losing Chris Brooks is the ability to have somebody who can pound the ball on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. That's an element the offense has been missing since Mike McDaniel's taken over. And maybe Jaylen Wright's the kind of guy who could bring that kind of physicality on 3rd and 4th and short. The third move I found to be most surprising was Nik Needham. For some people, Nik Needham was on the roster bubble, but I thought Nik Needham could come back and be a backup to Kader Kohou in the slot. The team also seemed to be cross-training Nik Needham between cornerback and safety, so I thought he'd be able to carve out a little role for himself. But if anything would happen to Kader Kohou, they would probably slide Jalen Ramsey into the slot and then have guys like Cam Smith and Kendall Fuller play on the boundary. So the Dolphins really aren't deep at cornerback, but I think they felt they could probably get somebody else off of somebody else's roster after cutdown day. Outside of Kohou and Ramsey, the only person who could probably play the slot is Javon Holland. And I think he's hurt because we haven't really seen too much of him in the preseason. If Javon Holland can come back to form, that'll be a real boost for the secondary. The fourth most surprising player on this list is Erik Ezukanma. It seems like in the Week 2 game, Erik Ezukanma had done enough to prove that he belongs on the 53-man roster. With injuries to Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, and River Craycraft, I just felt like Erik Ezukanma was a sure lock to make the roster. With this move, it leaves a lot of uncertainty at the wide receiver position. Of course, that means Braxton Berrios probably makes the team now. Malik Washington really flashed in the 3rd preseason game, and Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be out for the first 4 games of the season on the PUP list. But I expect Tyreek Hill to be back for the regular season. Jaylen Waddle is still dealing with a minor injury, and Braxton Berrios and Malik Washington will probably have to be the 3rd wide receiver in the slot. And of course, there's always Jonnu Smith. The Dolphins could use Jonnu Smith in the slot, or they could also use him in 2 tight end sets with Jerome Smythe. So the Dolphins have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to their formations on offense. The great thing about Erik Ezukanma was that he was the biggest wide receiver on the team, and you figured he might be able to help them in the red zone. And even though he was hand-selected by wide receiver coach Wes Welker, he just didn't do enough in the field to make himself stick on the 53. The number 5 most surprising person to get released is Blake Ferguson, long snapper. And honestly, I didn't see this move coming. And it's not like he was competing with someone else for the job. I mean, the Dolphins don't have another long snapper on the roster. Alan Poupard on the All Dolphins podcast speculated that the Dolphins might have cut Jake Ferguson to free up a roster spot until Wednesday when they could put that player on the IR. So for now, Blake Ferguson is out, but it's very likely that he'll be re-signed by Wednesday. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the section below, and I'll see you in the next video.